Hello everyone, EvoSelf13 here. This mask design that I'm about to show you guys is quite different than any design that I have ever done before. This particular design features not one, but 3 different clay sculptures, all under the name of Placebo. Each sculpture has its own specific name. So I present you all the first one, Placebo Male, Placebo Female, and last but not least, Placebo Skull. A lot of you are probably thinking to yourselves right now of why these 3 are so empty with style, detail, and personality. That's because I designed them like that. Think of these 3 as empty canvases for painting. These canvases will only be filled with soul and beauty if you want them to. The definition of the medical term placebo is a harmless pill, medicine, or procedure prescribed for the psychological benefit to the patient than for any physiological effect. What that means basically is that a placebo medication will not affect health whatsoever. The placebo pills were made so that it has no effect on the human body. The reason for that is so that patients will think they are getting cured by the placebo medication, when in reality nothing is actually happening inside of them. This medical strategy's purpose is to increase the optimism of the patients and thus making them mentally healthy, which leads to the body actually healing itself up. Metaphorically speaking, these 3 placebos are like the medication. They will only fulfill their purpose in life if you want them to. But other than that, these 3 are blank souls with no purpose in life by default. Think of these 3 as unmotivated, lazy, meaningless teenagers that have no interest in life. But then something happened. They found passion in art. Through that passion came talent. Through that talent came success. Through success, they found purpose in life. If y'all haven't figured it out yet, these 3 placebos act as blank design templates for making alternates. Not only for me, but also for you all when it comes to custom work. These 3 will only be casted in latex, so please keep that in mind. Since it's casted in latex, it will only cost at a starting point of $60. You guys do plan on using it for your custom mask. Speaking of custom work, please check out my rules and guidelines video if you haven't already. That video is your reference guide for anything regarding getting a custom mask from me. The link for that video will be in the description below, so please check that out. Alright, now here's something a bit out of topic. If you guys buy a mask from me, or commission a custom mask, you will receive a couple of my cards along with the masks themselves within the package. Handing out my artist card, as I call it, is something that I've been doing ever since I designed this and ordered it, which was in the beginning of this year, 2012. I recall some of you actually receiving these alongside your orders. I call it an artist card because I see myself as an individual artist rather than a business. Businesses crap out boring duplicates of the same mask and sell them because they do it for the funds. I, as an individual, do it for the vision and dream. Why do you guys think that every mask that I make is different than the one that came before it? Each and every mask that I make is special in its own unique way, and only one of each mask that I make will exist in the world. But yeah, I just wanted to share that to you all because I planned to make a video regarding these cards, but I totally forgot. And it's been months, so I decided to include it in this video. Now back to the actual video. The whole placebo project was very interesting because I wanted to create a decent looking human face and skull, and also it was something that I always had trouble with, sculpting just a plain blank skull or anything humanoid like, pretty much. I always had trouble with that. So I pretty much tested myself to see if I can do it, and I know that if I wanted to create blank templates for alternates as well as for custom work, I know I had to make these look realistic as I can get them to be. And I challenged myself with these placebo sculptures, which was the best part. I learned a lot of new things sculpting wise by studying various anatomical references. Anatomy is something that always fascinated me since my dad is a doctor back in the Philippines. I've been studying anatomy for a while, and I think all that studying has finally paid off. I even took an anatomy class in the Art Institute to know more about the human body. These 3 masterpieces are a huge improvement for me compared to my previous attempts. The very first skull mask I ever made was named Sanitarium. This was a first generation mask because it was made in the era of my mask making years, in which I did not know how to make a mold. So what I did basically was I smeared latex on the clay sculptures instead. As you can see, you know that it's a skull, but above all else, it's hard to tell the major bone landmarks. Many months later, I made Gorgasm. This is my second skull design. These are one of the first masks, actually, that came from a mold. As you can see, the cheeks are way too big, the eye sockets are small, pretty much everything was a disaster. So I don't know what happened there. Months later, I made Revamped Death Machine, which is one of the most stylized looking skulls I have ever done. I started to get better understanding how an actual skull looks, but I am not quite there yet. About 2 years later, I made Aftermath. In the year 2010, this was one of the most well done masks at its time. But now that I look at it, Placebo Skull looks way better, due to it looking more like an actual refined human skull. Aftermath was good, but it needs a couple of simple tweaks for it to be better. 2 years later, I created Placebo Skull, which resembles a whole lot like a human skull. Sculpting a realistic skull is something that requires a lot of practice to do, because there are certain parameters that you need to remember if you want to make something look like a skull. So now let's move on to the human faces. The earliest human face I tried to attempt was Vile Overdose. This mask I wanted to start out first as a human face, and then sculpt the slimy details on it. When it came to sculpting the human face, first I was way off on a lot of things. But you know, hey, everyone has to start on somewhere, right? The second human face design I did was Disfigured Ego. I had a better understanding on the human anatomy on this one because you can obviously tell that it's a man that has his face scarred. I had somewhat of a basic understanding for the facial anatomy, but I still had to learn many more things. Next up was Pendulum. This design had better structures regarding the bones, but now that I look at it, they're a bit too exaggerated, which makes it look weird. But above all else, I think I did okay with it. Now the next human I did was, this one's called Lost Soul. It was made as a face mask, armature only, and that is pretty much how I got its name. It has no soul until you sculpt something on top of it. This actually fascinates me now because this was pretty much how the whole placebo idea started. But anyways, the facial structures on this one was all screwed up because it was very difficult sculpting with NSP Chavant medium at the time. Not to mention, this was not sculpted on an armature as well. It was all one big hunk of clay made to look like a human, and that is why the shape is all funky looking. Next up is Hourglass. It's one of those masks that I regret sculpting, mainly because I sculpted it on a makeshift face mask armature, similar to Lost Soul. As a result, when I casted it, the mask was way too small, and that bothered me a lot. Anatomy-wise, everything was okay, but I could have worked on the wrinkles more, making them look believable. And finally, 2 years later, I successfully sculpted an actual human face, both male and female. The female one was really tricky because there were some things that I needed to sculpt in order for it to look feminine-like. But above all else, I believe I did a really good job sculpting these, and I learned so much. What's cool about Placebo in general is that there will be a time again where I feel like I could have done a better job with these three, and I will again resculpt one of these or all three of them and do a better job in the future. Pretty much what I'm saying is that over time, these three sculptures will get outdated. Pretty much what I'm saying is that over time, the three sculptures will get updated and they will still keep their Placebo name. I will do an updated sculpture video on them when the time comes. And that's pretty much it. Hope you all enjoyed this clay sculpture video that was filled with a bunch of extra content. Please show your support by liking, favoriting, and commenting on this video. Please like my fan page. That will be facebook.com/Juan Freakshow Caparas. Follow me on Twitter for daily updates on my art, and that'll be twitter.com/evilslaughter13. And if you are new to my videos, please subscribe. It will really help me out. Links will be in the description, so please check them out, and I will see you all in the next video.